Hello there. Welcome to or welcome back to my channel, Snips by Kelly. I'm Kelly, and tonight I have a two-page layout for you, but we're going to talk about jumping off points, finding scrapbook layout ideas. Now on page 29 of our brand new mini catalog, I saw this adorable scrapbook layout, so simple and so adorable. I love how they stacked different stamped and die cut pieces and ephemera. When I created it, I changed up the title a little bit, and I thought, how cute would it be to layer some torn papers like a garden and tuck all different kinds of vegetables, flowers, and fruits in there. And I just loved the stacked elements and how cute that is, and it uses very little pattern paper. Now I have quite a bit of the Storybook Moments collection left. There's tons of the garden paper, some strawberry paper, some of the characters, some of the neutrals. There's still some of the timeless plaid in there, and I have a ton of icons left. Now I have a lot of squirrel icons. I have a ton of different gardening icons. I have the nursery rhyme characters, but I was thinking, what if I focused this page on all of the squirrels? Now, I also might be adding a little bit of the everyday details dies just to add a few elements, because I'm not going to do any stamping or die cutting in this layout. I have so much of the ephemera to use up that I really want to use up the ephemera. So I have four 4x6 photos, and these are photos of my grandson Waylon James and I, and we're visiting a garden. Now, the inspirational layout that I got from page 29 of the catalog are some of the same photos from this day, but I just had some more photos that I wanted to document. So the first thing that I'm going to do is mount a strip of 3 on a 4 1/8 by 12-inch piece of very vanilla, and that's going to be the base of each of the 4x6 photos. And then I'm going to mount that on a 4.5 by 6.5 pecan pie. I think the browns are going to lend themselves to gardening and my concept of thinking about layering gardening bits. On the left hand side, I've also matted that photo with a 4 1/8 by 6 1/8 very vanilla and a 4.5 by 6.5 pecan pie. I want to use strips just like they did in the original layout. They only used one pattern paper, but I'd like to add a combination of some Lost Lagoon and Pecan Pie with some of the Busy Squirrel paper. So I'm adding these strips. I have a 2.5 inch piece of Lost Lagoon. So it's 2.5 by 9. And then I have a 2-inch by 9-inch piece of Pecan Pie, a 2.5 by 9-inch piece of the squirrel pattern, and a 2-inch by 9-inch piece of the squirrel pattern, a 1 or 1 1/4 inch piece of the Lost Lagoon pattern paper, and then the bottom Pecan Pie is 1.5 by 9. Now on the right, I went all the way across with those same widths in terms of measurements, but the length I went all the way across, but I really could have just cut those into 3-inch pieces because they're going to be covered up by the photo mat in the center on the right. So you could have saved over 6 inches of paper there in the center if you wanted to. Now that I've torn all of those strips, I'm going to dirty up the edges with some Pecan Pie ink. That's going to lend itself to the gardening and to a little bit of a dirty effect. I'm actually using solid core cardstock, so it's going to make a really dark edge. If you're using a white core cardstock, it's going to leave a little bit of a white edge with a little bit of the tips being brown. I really liked using the solid core for this instance because it made a darker brown on the edges. So all I'm going to do is add adhesive to the bottom of those pieces, or the top of those pieces, depending on if they're at the top or the bottom. And I'm just going to layer those, and I have to just guesstimate where the tears are going to be so that the photo fits almost perfectly in the center. I don't want the paper to overlap on the photo, but I don't want to have a lot of cardstock gap between the layers and the photo. And that's just how simple this is going to be. This is a really, really easy one. And I love to find a jumping off point or inspiration from our catalogs. I will take a small idea from a card or a layout that's featured in the catalog, and I will recreate that cluster, or it will give me one small idea as a jumping off point to create a whole separate layout. I like that the tearing is following suit with the original layout, and that original layout is going to go with this series of papers, and it's going to continue with that theme, but it's going to be a completely different layout. I wanted the pecan pie to be at the bottom of the stack because that reminds me of the dirt or the garden dirt. So I could put maybe a little fence down there, maybe some little garden pieces. Now I want to have a lot of dimension. So I'm actually using the flat tool edge of my Take Your Pick tool, and I'm pushing that up just a little bit and giving those edges a bend, and that'll make it look a little bit more like layered elements of dirt or layered elements in the garden. And it's coming together so quickly and easily. It's such an easy layout to duplicate. So I'm going to repeat the patterns on the right. And again, if you wanted, instead of a 12-inch in length, you could have done two 3-inch, to total 6 inches of those sections. And you could have saved 6 inches in the middle if you're trying to stretch your pack. This was such a fun walk with Waylon James, and we got to see organic gardens with heads of lettuce and all different kinds of vegetables and flowers and gorgeous flower gardens. And we actually spent the day also seeing some turtles and some other things, but this was just kind of like the garden portion. And I love the squirrel characters because that's kind of how Waylon James was, just running all over the place, up and down like a squirrel. And we actually saw some squirrels that day. So I actually put foam tape on the photo mats, the large and then the one on the left as well. And then I'm just going to center that down the center. And I love how it looks already. So simple, it's clean, but it has a little bit of a hodgepodge with the torn edges, but it's still a very clean layout. Now I'm looking at some different colors of the florals, and I think I can get some brighter tones in there. I have more neutrals, and I think within the collection, some Calypso Coral goes with the collection. So I pulled out some of the Timeless Plaids and the patterns on the backs of the Timeless Plaids, and I've actually cut some of those Everyday Details dies and cut some different size circles out of Very Vanilla, Calypso Coral, and the Timeless Plaids. And I just see myself making a little circle cluster up at the top, grabbing all those squirrel characters. So I'm going to pull out all the squirrels. I don't know why there's so many more squirrels than there is of all the other characters, maybe just because they're so cute, but I really love the idea of just focusing on the squirrels and having all the different squirrel characters tucked in different spots throughout the layout. I'll probably grab some stickers, some letter stickers, or some alphabet dies and create a sentiment here or a title here. So I grab out the mini alpha dies, and I'm going to spell out walk with me, because that's all we were doing is walking together. Waylon James was walking with me, I was walking with him, and we just had a wonderful, we actually spent almost the whole entire morning and early afternoon here, and it was just such a great place to get some energy out and some exercise and take in the sights. And we sat and had a little picnic lunch on a bench, and it was just a really great day for both of us. I don't do that enough. I don't slow down enough. My life is so fast and so busy that sometimes, unless I take a grandchild with me, I don't slow down for myself. And so I really love my grandchild days because it helps me to just stop and smell the roses, so to speak. So now I'm just adjusting. I'm layering this top very vanilla with a little bit of foam tape. And I'm going to add the squirrel to that and the title to that. And then I'll probably be super easy, super quick, and super traditional by creating a little bit of a visual triangle. So I will want something that makes my eye go across the photo on the left and then over across all the photos on the right. So probably I will create a cluster on the lower left of the left page, and then I will create a cluster probably on the lower right of the right page or somewhere in the middle. So that takes my eye from the lower left of the left page to the upper right across the photo, and then down back across all the photos on the right page down to the lower right. So you're trying to create a triangle of clusters or a triangle of elements that helps your eye go across what you want to focus on. So let's say you have some really important journaling, and that's what you want the focus of your layout to be, is the journaling. You would want to create some kind of a visual triangle around that journaling that draws your eye across the journaling. If you want the viewer to focus on the photos and the photo elements, you would make a visual triangle across the photo elements. So again, down on the lower left, using a little bit of that Calypso coral and the timeless plaid, and just continuing on with the circle elements and adding the squirrels to the circle. They're playful and they're fun. And even though Waylon James is in the picture and it's a boy layout, he's surrounded by lettuce and garden greens and florals, and he has so much blue in his shorts and in his hat that I can add the blue flowers. I can also focus on the squirrel that has the little blue overalls. He can be on the upper right of Waylon for a little bit of color match. And now I think it would be really fun to just add some of those elements from my original idea. Create a little layered garden inside the little layered elements that we created by tearing the paper. So there's this cute little punch out fence in the ephemera. I really love that. And then we could probably add, some fruits, some vegetables, some florals. There's a cute little gardening hat. There's all kinds of elements. I have never seen so much ephemera in a set ever. So I love how many uses I'm going to get out of the ephemera that's in this package. And I do love the stamp and die set, but I will venture to guess in some of my layouts, especially my quick and easy ones, I'm a little lazy. I love that I don't have to stamp and die. Now, do I love stamping and die cutting? Absolutely. But I love it when I can throw a layout together and use the ephemera and just make really, really quick and easy and cute designs by not having to do so much work. So I've added that little pitchfork with a little bit of mini dimensional. I also popped up the dirt in front of the fence with a little mini dimensional, tuck some flowers behind the fence, and then I'll see what I can do on the right page. I think I can add some of those same garden elements within the layers, and then probably add a cluster of the everyday, I keep saying everyday essentials, everyday details circles, everyday details dies. I'll link in the description, of course, everything that I use in today's layout. Now, I don't use the stamp and die in this particular layout, although I use it on many others. And so you could get the option where you get the paper pack and sticker sheet with the ephemera included if you didn't want to have to get the whole set. And so that would be a great way to, if you're just looking at doing layouts with ephemera only. I think all of these clusters are turning out so cute. There's that little mouse on the lower right. He's the only one that I use that isn't a squirrel, but his little tail I have had so much fun putting his little tail and his little eyes peeking out. Now there are some antique pearls that come in this with this set in this collection. So I've put those in different places around just as a really light added touch. I love it. How easy is that? So easy to duplicate. If you don't want to use the circles, you could use some little hexagon shapes or any frames that come right in the kit, any little elements to create that visual triangle. I love using items from the catalog for jumping off points or inspiration to create my layouts. I hope I've helped and you found a little inspiration today. Hit like, subscribe, the notification bell, and come back soon for more right here on Snips by Kelly.